So Ronna McDaniel, who was up until recently chairing the RNC, took a job as a contributor with NBC News. NBC News, the vaunted, okay? And I have to tell you, I considered sending her a text, like, good luck.
Like, no.
Really, truly.
Yeah.
Like, as somebody who is on the right side, walking into that building, I mean, talk about going in the lion's den. But she's a big girl and she can handle herself. So I thought it might be, I don't know, somehow dismissive or condescending. So I didn't do that. Well, I should have done it because she needed the good luck during her debut weekend, which didn't go so well. She appeared with Kristen Welker, who is now the host of Meet the Press. She took over from Chuck Todd. He lost the show to Kristen. We're going to get to him in a second. But here is a bit of how that went in SOP 5.
You owe this country an apology.
We're allowed to look after elections and say, I want to make sure this was done in a transparent and fair way.
Why should people trust what you're saying right now?
One, I will say this. Kristen, voters right now in this country are going to be making a choice in November, and they don't care about 2020. Republicans and Democrats.
A lot of people see it as fundamental to the country's democracy.
I represent 50% of this country, whether you like it or not. To be able to have different viewpoints and say, I disagree with that viewpoint, but it's important to hear it, is important to our country.
Okay. Then comes Chuck Todd, now as chief political analyst and a guest on Kristen Welker's same show with his thoughts on that exchange. Watch.
I think our bosses owe you an apology for putting you in this situation. Well, I have no idea whether any answer she gave to you was because she didn't want to mess up her contract. She has credibility issues that she still has to deal with.
Yeah.
Is she speaking for herself or is she speaking on behalf of who's paying her? And look, there's a reason why there's a lot of journalists at NBC News uncomfortable with this, because many of our professional dealings with the RNC over the last 6 years have been met with gaslighting, have been met with character assassination. When NBC made the decision to give her NBC News' credibility, you got to ask yourself, what does she bring NBC News?
Okay. He's very confused about the fact that when she was the RNC spokesperson, she wasn't just out there spewing the opinions of Ronna McDaniel. She was actually being paid to be a spokesperson for the Republican National Committee, which is a group of people who drive policy within the Republican Party and try to get the results that they want. It's not the Ronna McDaniel committee. And that now that she's with NBC News, she is free to provide her own independent political analysis. What has made him confused about that? The fact that she's accepting an NBC paycheck? I don't get it. Because he seemed very capable to make the proper distinctions when NBC hired Jen Psaki. Remember Jen Psaki? You seem to understand it perfectly. In fact, Chuck Todd, you promoted her show, which was being launched on MSNBC, which is even more partisan than NBC, just as she launched it. Here, look at this, SOT 7.
Jen Psaki, who is here on the debut of the host of her show, Inside with Jen Psaki. It launches today at noon, after you watch this show, of course, on MSNBC and streaming on Peacock. Welcome and congrats.
Thank you so
Formally,
much.
very exciting. And
you only have to apologize. You only have to apologize when you hire the conservatives, you see. When you hire the liberal mouthpieces from, the White House or the RNC or the DNC. It's a different story.
The greatest irony about Chuck Todd's soliloquy there is that he doesn't seem to know who currently pays Ronna McDaniel. He says, is she expressing her own views or the views of the people who pay her? The problem with Ronna McDaniel's hiring at NBC is that she is not expressing the views of the people who pay her. NBC News is a liberal media outlet. It exists to promote a liberal view, a liberal ideology, liberal policy prescriptions. They occasionally make a big show of hiring a Republican, and usually they hire a liberal Republican. So they hire someone like Michael Steele to come give commentary. Michael Steele is pretty liberal, so it usually works out just fine. Or they hire Joe Scarborough. Nicole Wallace, right. They'll hire some...
Steve Schmidt.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's always just that kind of Republican. The person
Lincoln
who goes on
Project
air and
types.
says, yes, also known as Democrats. Yeah, but they'll say, listen, I'm a conservative, but I'm not that kind of conservative. I'm not the kind of conservative that, would be supported by conservatives. I'm not the kind of Republican who would ever get elected as a Republican, but I'm here to show you how fair and balanced NBC News is. And I think what they assumed was that Ronna McDaniel, as the head of the RNC, a Beltway figure, someone with the last name Romney, might be able to fit into that kind of a box. And it's an impressive thing to have the former head of the RNC as your lower third. But the problem is, I think what the execs didn't understand is that Ronna worked for super duper mega Hitler Donald Trump. And so it doesn't matter if your last name's Romney. It doesn't matter if you're a Beltway fixture. That's just going to be stuck to you. And the audience probably won't accept you. Your hosts won't accept you. It just won't happen. And so probably what's going to happen, I hope they paid her a nice big signing bonus. Probably she's going to get shuffled out at some point.
She's going to get shuffled.
It has to happen, right? And so the replacement will just be Joe Scarborough Jr., that the replacement will just be another fake Republican.
Speaking of Joe Scarborough, he also has strong feelings about the hire of Ronna McDaniel. Watch this.
We weren't asked our opinion of the hiring, but if we were, we would have strongly objected to it for several reasons, including, but not limited to, as lawyers might say, Ms. McDaniel's role in Donald Trump's fake elector scheme and her pressuring election officials to not certify election results while Donald Trump was on the phone.
To be clear, we believe NBC News should seek out conservative Republican voices to provide balance in their election coverage. But it should be conservative Republicans, not a person who used her position of power to be an anti-democracy election denier. And we hope NBC will reconsider its decision. It goes without saying that she will not be a guest on Morning Joe.
Oh, well. So they clearly wrote that and put it into prompter. That was their official position statement. She can't come on MSNBC. And she certainly can't come on Morning Joe. By the way, you shouldn't say it goes without saying and then say the thing. That's a no-no.
It goes without saying, but I'm frivolous and repetitive. So here we are.
This is amazing. Like hearing them, no one asked us for our opinion because they don't give a shit what we say. But we would have not just objected, but strongly objected. Strong. It would have been a strong objection to the hiring of that election denier because you're only allowed to question the results of elections if you are a Democrat. You have to be named Hillary Clinton or Stacey Abrams. And by the way, they only hire the most pristine, upstanding, ethical people over at MSNBC and NBC, like every other day MSNBC Morning Joe guest Al Sharpton, Michael. It's fine to incite race riots, to make up a race hoax about an alleged rape by white cops, which was a total lie, as John Podhoretz pointed out. Completely forgot about this one on Twitter. 1995, Sharpton sparked rage in Harlem against a Jewish store owner who wanted to expand. Sharpton called him a white interloper at a rally. 8 people were later killed in a fire set by one of the protesters. I could keep going. That's okay. But if you question an election, F off, you will not be asked on Morning Joe.
Of course, my favorite part of her diatribe, it was similar to Chuck Todd's, but she was more explicit. She said, look, we need to hire conservative Republicans, of course, but they need to be conservative Republicans. I can't tell you, Megyn, how many times I have been lectured by liberal Democrats who not only disagree with what I think, but have no idea what I think really about anything on what a true conservative Republican is. The Democrats have been pulling this since at least the Goldwater election. Since the 1960s, they ran an ad and it was some dorky looking guy, with his horn-rimmed glasses. And he says, I've been a conservative Republican all my life. My father was a conservative, but this man, Mr. Goldwater, he is just a bridge too far. He's not a real, and you hear this all the time. You never hear it from any of the conservatives because anyone who is a conservative Republican who speaks honestly would not be acceptable to the audience of a far left network. And so they need to maintain the patina of credibility and balance. And so it's all just kabuki theater. It's all just a fake show. And it seems kind of like disreputable work for me. I probably wouldn't take the job. But, if the paycheck is big enough, I hope at least Ronna can, get a few weeks' salary before the hammer comes down.
Financial experts thought we were in the clear. They were anticipating around 6 rate cuts by the Fed this year, and then the inflation data came out higher than expected. This isn't going away anytime soon. How could it? The U.S. is $34 trillion in the hole, and yet we just keep on printing money, which pushes the prices you pay every day even higher. So you can either bury your head in the sand or you can do something about it. One option to consider is to diversify a portion of your savings into gold with Birch Gold Group. Gold can be your hedge against inflation, and Birch Gold makes it easy to own. They will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold, and you don't pay a penny out of pocket. Text Megyn to 989898 and get your free info kit on gold. Then speak with a precious metal specialist about how you can choose to protect your savings from persistent inflation with gold. Text Megyn, MEGYN, to 989898 now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.